Maybe don't know.
This time, this time, this time, this time, this time to build. 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 This time power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Hampton. Welcome to episode 128 of the Power Company Podcast, brought to you by PowerCompanyClimbing.com. We are on a roll here. I'm back in my groove, back in my routine, and we've got a bunch of great episodes coming. But first, I want to handle a little bit of business really quickly. As many of you know, we are regularly sold out of our custom training plans. All the damn time. But as of today, all of our coaches, myself excluded, have opened up available spots. And if you are unaware of what our plans are, what we have currently available are 6 and 12-week completely individualized training programs. Got lots of other things too, but these are the ones that are always sold out. Each one is custom built with your experience, goals, equipment, and schedule in mind. So it doesn't matter what your situation is, we can work with it. And you'll have in-app messaging with your coach for whatever questions arise. And just so you're in the know, I generally recommend the 6-week plans as kind of a quick trip prep or something if you've got a big objective coming up, something like that. But if you have the time to dedicate to a full 12-week training plan, I think you'll get much more out of that. And these will sell out, so get in there ASAP, get a spot with either Nate, Blake, Paul, or Jess. You can find links in the show notes right there in your pocket supercomputer, or you can go to powercompanyclimbing.com/custom. Get them now. Also, because today's episode is about mentorship, I want to tell you a quick story here. My friend Tyler from episode 93 about being good climbing partners. If you haven't listened to that, you should go do that. Recently moved to Malawi, Africa, a year or so ago. And one of the first things he did when he got there was put a small home wall up in his garden for him to train on. And that attracted the attention of some local kids who instantly fell in love with climbing, just like all of us did. And that wall quickly became a community spot where more and more local kids came over to discover climbing and hang out and be friends and be mentored by Tyler. And now, Tyler is a quirky guy. He always wears a button-up, long-sleeve shirt to climb in. And he once told me that he does it because it reminds him that it's time for business. And I mean, we all have our methods. A few months ago, Tyler sent me a photo from the very first Climb Malawi bouldering trip with all these local kids that have been climbing at his wall. And nearly all of the kids are wearing long sleeve button-up dress shirts. And the role of that kind of mentorship is so powerful. Just last week, Tyler's landlord told him that he had to dismantle the wall. Because of the growth and importance of that community, Tyler had already started a GoFundMe to raise money for a permanent, larger space that can serve the community. And now it needs our help. You'll find links in your show notes to the Climb Malawi Instagram, directly to their GoFundMe, and you can also find them at climbbmalawi.com to learn more about what Tyler's doing over there. You'll also find the photo of that first bouldering trip. The wall might need to be dismantled, but letting the community it's built be dismantled would be a travesty. So go do it. Put your money where your mouth is. We're all always out there on social media shouting about how people should be helping. So let's go help. All right, today's show is with two of my very good friends, Lee Smith and frequent podcast guest, Dru Mack. Dru's become a bit of a sensation these last couple of years, and that isn't an accident. He's worked his ass off for it, but he's also gotten a ton of support along the way, support that he's very aware of and very appreciative of, most notably from his friend and mentor, Lee Smith. And this episode got a little emotional for all of us, got a little emotional listening back to it. But rather than explain, I'm going to let it do the talking, and we're just going to get into it.
This is why I just wouldn't tell you exactly what to do. I needed you to learn how to think so that when you passed me up, you were going to help me out on what I didn't understand, what I can't understand because I haven't been there.
Power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build.
One of my favorite moments of recording this podcast way back was sitting in here with you, Dru, recording the first episode you were on.
Uh-huh.
And since then, over countless podcasts, we've given you shit, Lee. At one point or another, you've been the butt of some joke in many, many, many podcasts.
Agreed.
So I feel like this is your retribution. Like you get to
I'm gonna let loose.
Yeah, just let everybody know. We're going to bury Dru here. There's some other people who are going to get theirs throughout the podcast, I think. But ultimately, because when I talk to Dru, you have to come up. I think, I don't think that conversation happens without your name coming up. And that's because of this mentorship that's happened. And it's a really special mentorship. When I think back to my climbing, like the people that mentored me, I'm not still climbing with them. There was a time when it was like, oh, I outgrew them, moved on. And even though Dru's now sending lots of mid-range moderates,
God,
you guys are still climbing together. Like he still shows up at the crag while you're on your 857th go on your project.
858th, but yes.
Okay, sorry. And you guys are still, like, you're asking him for beta, which is a totally different thing than how it started. And this whole relationship is just really interesting to me, and I kind of want to know about it. First off, why on earth would you take Dru Mack under your wing?
Honestly,
this is going to be awful. This is going to be the cheesiest podcast ever.
Not at all.
I owe everything to him, though, so it'll be real cheesy.
Honestly, he was just this little dorky, super excited kid at the gym that had no clue what he was doing.
I'm talking about the beginning, not last week.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's a low blow, Chris.
Honestly, though, like, I saw so much of myself in him. And I remember thinking when I was younger, like, I wish I had someone that could, take me through this, show me, help me avoid all the pitfalls.
Yeah.
And he was a really good kid. He was really psyched. He was respectful.
I bugged him to death.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Seriously, Chris? Teresa asked me, like, this was back when you didn't have unlimited text. She's like, who's Dru? And you either need to tell him
for some woman.
Yeah. You need to either tell him to quit texting you, or we're going to have to get you on an unlimited plan because he's sending us through the roof.
It was mostly just updates about my flappers and how fast were they going to grow back.
So
I was really worried.
That's not a joke. He got his first flapper one day when we went out, and then I dropped him off at home, and we live 5 minutes apart. I'm not even home yet, and he's giving me picture updates of his flapper going, is this going to be okay? It was awesome.
Was this after the infamous day at Roadside?
No, I started climbing when I was 11 or 12. And it wasn't like super consistent with Lee. But that kind of our relationship started a little bit later, and then very, very much from then. We started climbing a lot together. And then the roadside accident was
not the accident, the infamous.
Oh, yeah, that was super. Oh,
That was day one, Drew.
That was
day
early.
one.
Wow, yeah, that was my first day ever out rock climbing. The roadside, should I tell it?
Yeah.
So we're driving down. I didn't sleep the whole night before. It's my first time to the Red River Gorge climbing, actually. I'd been here to the Red a handful of times as a kid just to go hiking with my family. We're 2 hours away. You know, it's like famous. We're going and seeing pretty views and stuff. It was Lee and I's first time. I bugged him to death to bring me outside. And we went to Longwall, which... if you haven't been,
That's the last time you went to Longwall.
don't go. I've been once more. Don't know why.
Because it's an amazing crag.
It
And I
is an
top
amazing
roped the
crag.
route called Boom Boom Out Go the Lights 10B by
Yeah,
John
yeah.
Bernal, which was in one of your
It was
raps.
in one of my songs.
It was
Yeah.
in one of your raps, Valor Over Discretion.
Yep.
Chris, which
Which
we
I-
played every
played
time
all
on the
of
way
the
to the
time.
Red.
Yep.
I helped
See,
raise you, Drew.
this is detailed as hell. Annalise is freaking out right now. I love it. Yeah, so I mean, I top roped that. There's photos. Matt Turner went up and took photos of my very first time ever climbing.
So you've had paparazzi since day one.
Since the beginning. Yeah, since the beginning. There is photo evidence of me grabbing draws on top rope by any means, just hustle. But, you know, I mean, through that, like, that was just, like, I knew that was, like, I was so psyched. But when, you know, that first time we were driving in, I had no idea what rock climbing was. You know, I had only climbed in the gym on plastic holds.
Right.
So I had no concept of what this was going to be like. And Lee, if you've been to the Red River Gorge, you know the Shell Station. And there's a massive road cut where it's just been, like, you know, dug out for the highway. And Lee convinced me that was roadside, and he was, you know, like on the far left, there's like a wall, and, you know, roadside, Rochambeau's in the middle, and, you know, Wild Gifts like a little further right, and
He was so psyched. He's like, "Can we do these today?
Can we go there someday? Can we go there? Can we go there?" And it was, I mean, you know, it wasn't until I like showed up at Longwall, I guess. I didn't even really put it together, but, you know, Longwall's a little better than the road cut. But, you know, like, it was just so funny. I was so oblivious.
Yeah.
I was
totally
so,
agree.
like, you know, I was like 12. I was stoked.
He was stoked.
Yeah.
So it was stoke from day one. He just wanted to be out here doing something. Didn't even know what it was. Didn't even care. The stoke is just built in.
Yeah, like
That didn't come from rock climbing. He brought that here.
no, that was just him, and it came out in rock climbing. But I'm sure it came out with his basketball and running and everything else he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I just found all these. I should totally post these on the blog.
Oh, no.
I just
What is this?
I just found all these raps that Drew used to send me.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Like way back in the day.
he would show me those
He'd
too.
send me all these Facebook message raps, and they were all about wanting to climb
Paradise
Lost.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
It was awesome.
Yep. Kenny
Loved
Barker
it.
has them too. I sent them to him. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. Rap was cool.
So why
Climbing was
you
cool.
like you were up and coming yourself? Like you're trying to push the grades at that point. You've kind of always been that person trying to
Yeah, not
push
pushing grades,
yourself.
but trying to do better than I
Yeah,
did last
yeah,
time
yeah.
around. Yeah, for sure.
Did you not see it as like this could slow me down, bringing this fucking punk little excited kid out?
Whoa, dude.
So I actually had this talk with Teresa. I'm like, I feel like I'm getting ready to get invested in something that is going to slow me down. And he's a good kid. He annoys the crap out of me,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have any other way to do this. And I kind of feel like he would be a lifer. And she's like, well, you got to make that call. Like, what's going to mean more to you? And there we are.
Just the kind of dude you are. You were just like, all right, I'll bring the kid. He can carry my draws or something to the crag.
Well, I knew one day he'd be hanging them for me.
When was that evident?
that he was going to pass me up.
Yeah.
So Dru, this is hard to say about someone that, does 14 like it's a joke, but Dru really isn't that talented. Like he wasn't that great in the gym.
Sucked.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
He came out, he didn't understand how to move. Like it took a lot. He wasn't talented. Everything he has now is because he put in the work for it. And he trusted me on how to guide him to get him there.
Yeah. There's always been this big thing with me and Lee because, Lee's a physical therapist. He understands how the body works. He knows how to train. Like he knows, he's done the research. He's done the reading. Ava Lopez, Eric Horst.
Listen to Power Company guys. Climbing.
Yeah. Whatever, and who are they? No. And so I always wanted him to just like tell me how to do it. Like, tell me how to be a better client. Tell me what to do. And he never did. He always told me like what he was doing and what we would talk it through of like what do you need to be better at? Like what goals do you have? And then like how does that make sense to get there? And and now I've started like working with some people and some kids, and I try to keep that same model, and I explain it to them in the sense of like the old adage of like, if you whatever it is, the fish thing about, if you catch somebody's fish for them, they eat for one day. If you teach them how to fish, they eat forever. I've said that a million times, but Lee like was the full example over that of like 10 years of like I begged him to just be my coach. I didn't have a coach, but I had like a mentor and like a best friend and a father, and that was like, as much as he taught me about climbing, he taught me about like life. It's crazy,
Lee, was there like a conscious effort? Was there thought behind, I need to teach this kid things other than how to climb hard?
Absolutely.
So what all were you thinking about back then as far as, there were no like Jim DeCrag initiatives. There wasn't the, these are the outdoor ethics that we live by on a poster in the gym, What were the things that you thought were really important for Dru to know?
Honestly, when I first met him, and like I said before, like I felt like I was meeting myself as a kid, and I just wanted to give him a way, like
give him a way, not give him away.
That's right. Yeah, no, I didn't want to give him away, but like I kind of felt like Dru wasn't going to have the opportunity to come down here to be a good climber.
Right.
I mean, he put me in this environment. He put me here. He brought me here. He like allowed me to have these experiences. It wasn't necessarily like I don't think that he necessarily said like, I'm going to teach Dru this on this trip.
You have to do this.
He just put me in this world that like I wanted to be a part of, but I also didn't know what was.
Were you watching the way that Lee moved through it and the way that Lee interacted with?
No, I just wanted to rock climb.
You were just out there.
No. I mean, I think like subconsciously, I'm sure there's so many things that we've never talked about that I know I'm similar to you in different ways, or different like things that I've picked up over the years, or things that I don't necessarily remember, like you teaching me, but just watching you do, or us talking. I mean, simple things like, different little tactics, or different like cleaning tactics, or like things just make your life a little easier while you're at the crag, or, I mean, things about how to interact with people, and like, I mean, just like literally everything was like seen through him. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you aware that the things you were doing were going to be picked up by Dru? I mean, you weren't a parent at the time, so it wasn't.
No, because they had to be shown a number of times. Yeah, like he was young, 11 or 12.
Yeah,
really young.
How old were you at the time?
I'm 20 years older than you. So what? 31, 32.
Yeah.
you know, he was struggling with stuff like you do when you're 11 or 12. And, you know, when you see someone and you kind of feel like they're right on the line and you want to make sure that they end up on the good side of it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he and I struck up some deals and yeah.
Yeah,
And-
man. I mean, I struggled with my own things as a young kid.
Sure.
My own like demons and sadness and just dealing with like how to figure like I don't think people as adults you're just like kids have it so good, but if you put yourself back in your situation as a kid,
Oh, I would
You're like-
never go back.
yeah, no, dude.
no
I mean,
way.
it's like hardcore figuring it all out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I hated school. I hated it, and I never wanted to be there, ever at all. And I didn't like. I would just get by, or you know, I would want to skip or whatever. I had a hard time, and Lee would make, you know, we'll take you out climbing if you get your math grade up, or like you know, simple little things of like, you know, what I mean. I don't even remember, but like I remember stuff like that for sure, which was just help directed me, you know. Crazy.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy. It's what's the craziest is that Lee allowed you to ever start listening to Migos. That's
Bro.
the craziest.
Amigos.
What's crazier, bro, is that you don't even know. Drop top. Crockpot.
Crockpot. Please tell me that they
Cooking and
rhyme
cracking the
drop
crock pot.
top and crockpot.
Raindrop. Drop top. Cooking them, cracking the crock pot.
Okay.
Bad and bougie? Oh, man. Whew.
Sorry, Drew. Sorry. We're a different generation.
That's all right, man. I mean, I got a couple DMs about that on my side, so I'm straight.
So, did you have a relationship with Dru's parents at all in this time?
Yeah, they had to get to know me. They had to get to trust me.
Yep.
How much do you want to go into that roadside part?
Not like the whole thing, but I mean, everything's on the table. That's fine. That's part of the process. This is like good times and bad times. We can't just sit here and talk about like how amazing our relationship has been without talking about the times that sucked.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, you know, I met with his parents and, you know, we're roughly the same age, you know?
Yeah.
And they thought I was responsible enough. And I'm like, hey, I've been doing this a while. When he's out there with me, he will be safe. Like that's going to happen because that's my thing.
Yep.
So they were really good with it. And then,
They knew I was gonna do it. Like they loved that I had something to do, and they just knew how passionate I was about it too. And they like were pretty. They didn't like pay for my gym sponsor, like my gym membership or anything like that. But they were just like go do it. Like, you're gonna do it.
Yep.
Do it. But go ahead.
yeah, you want to talk them through that roadside day?
So,
yeah, you alluded to it a little earlier.
Yeah. So this was hard, man. Like, you know, and this is a story I tell all the time now that I'm in the position I'm in because I think people need to know about it. You know, I started climbing. I was climbing better and better, and this checked me because I did 12A in a day for the first time that day, and I was like proud. I did way up yonder on my second try, like feeling like a G. And we walked over. I wanted to climb on Return to Chris Schneider. Really classic route. It's got this like easy slab crack to start. You know, a high first bolt, and it's normally sandy and a little bit wet. And I remember us going over there. My dad was out there with me, and Lee was on belay. My dad was just watching. It was like his second time ever outside, just watching me climb. And Lee said, I was all ready to go. You know when you're all ready to go, and then you're like, oh, maybe we should stick clip. And we kind of looked at each other, and I was like, how hard is it? He was like, it's really easy, but if you don't feel comfortable, we'll just go grab a stick clip. I remember that, like, being like,
Yeah.
There was kind of this option, right?
Well, the way that I remember it was, I remember it a little different. I remember being like, okay, this start is committing. I think you should stick clip, but my stick clip was back at Channel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'll go get it.
Yeah.
I don't mind. But he's like, no, I think I'm fine. I said, okay, well, then here's the deal. Every single move you do has to be 3 points on, static, well within your ability. You cannot jump to anything. And
I just sat, I remember starting my way up, and I sat down on a ledge, brushed my feet off. I brushed the sand off my shoes.
Yep.
And I started up, and the next thing I knew, I was waking up from being unconscious for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And had a rock that was like, I was lying on my back, and I had no clue. I was so like lost. I had a rock that was just kind of like that I was laying on. And I remember that being the most uncomfortable thing, and I was squirming. I just wanted the rock. I wanted to lie flat. And they finally kind of like, I don't even remember the faces above me. Like, I don't remember anything. I remember asking Lee if I sent.
no, he did not.
No. But I never weighted the rope, so...
It's true. You still get the onsite later.
So I did about 3 cartwheels over 2 cartwheels.
I want to say this part, because this was the scariest thing I've experienced. So he committed to the big move, and
it's like a stand-up move kind of thing.
And he jumped, and he missed, and so everything was gonna be okay. Though I was gonna spot him, and I ran right to where it'd be, and then the ledge he was sitting on, he hit and bounced the other way. Fuck. And when I say he landed with his neck sideways, it was grotesque looking, and I was in spinal cord injury research at the time. I saw that, and I knew instantly what the rest of his life was going to be like. So what he was talking about in that rock was, while he was out, I had to, stabilize his neck to make sure it didn't move, so we didn't cause any more other kind of damage. And, he was making involuntary sounds because he was out.
Right.
And so his dad looks at me with just pure fear. I can't imagine what he's feeling. I think he, just thought his son died. And I said, we're okay. Jeff has a phone. He was around the corner. Go call them and have him call 911. Someone's going to be up here in 20 minutes. And
they put me on this stretcher with a wheel on the bottom, so that they could get me out of there. And it's like from there, it's like a bunch of, it's not an easy walk out.
Right.
Carrying, a human being. And I don't really remember any of it. I remember, bits and pieces. They rushed me to the hospital, and I didn't have a scrape on my body. I had a concussion, and I didn't have a scrape on my body.
I mean, that's a miracle. Like, if you wouldn't believe it if you would have seen it.
Yeah. Lucky.
Yeah.
Unreal, man. Use a stick clip.
Use a stick clip.
Jesus Christ.
I'm all for it. Stick number 2 if you can.
Heck yeah.
I ain't mad about it.
That's right.
What's crazy is this, so that like I went back a year after that, and I haven't really told this story to many people. I know you have, but I wanted to go do that route. I stick clipped the first bolt, and this is like literally 5.2. Like, this isn't something that people really think about falling on. It's really easy, but you can slip.
I've seen several people slip up there.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, and one person broke his back on it.
Right after you.
No, earlier.
Right before you?
Yep.
It wasn't long ago.
Ed Mank broke his back.
Oh, did he really?
Same
I didn't
thing.
know that.
Same thing. And then somebody broke their ankle on it, I think. Anyway, I went and stick clipped it. We took a photo of the rope up, which I thought was funny. My buddy Nathan Presley and I were out there. And I slipped again on top rope. And I had the craziest deja vu because I didn't know what had happened when I fell, like, at all. And then I literally remember feeling the grossest pit in my stomach, and I had to like come to the ground and chill out. Wow. Yeah, it was so weird. The weirdest. I might have cried. Like, really, honestly, it was like this moment that had happened that I didn't really experience. And then I had a similar experience that put me in that.
Triggered that same.
And I was just like immediately incredibly emotional. Like, oh my God, that's what happened.
Yeah.
You know, that whole experience was a huge learning moment for me too. And I learned that it doesn't matter how psyched or confident they are, 11 and 12-year-olds cannot make some decisions.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
that was my decision that I gave away to him. You can't do that with an 11 and 12-year-old.
I was a little older, but yeah. But which that takes us into like the parents part,
Yeah. So
kind of relating that back.
how did that affect the relationship with the parents?
So it was,
I hate this part.
so I got really shook up
Yeah.
over that.
Of course.
And it's being in the job I was in,
Yep.
there has been other situations that were almost identical to this that I saw where the person that did end up with a spinal cord injury was able to sue the person they were with, and they took their house and everything else to cover the medical expenses, you know.
Sure.
So, you know, this was a big topic with me and my wife. She's like, you know, Lee, you're my partner. I have to trust you, and you're out there doing things that I can't have any control over. So you've got to fix this. You've either got to quit this relationship or you have got to find a way to fix it. And so I told Dru this, you know, and he was like, well, I don't want this to end. I'm like, well, then
Tell me we weren't going to climb together anymore.
yeah.
And I lost my like, dude, this meant everything to me.
Yeah.
I cried so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like losing I felt like I was losing everything that I needed.
Yeah, and that was really hard on me because Dru wasn't just this kid, you know.
Right.
Dru and I have tried.
I mean, we had spent 4 years together at that point. I think that was like into the, you know, into it.
Yeah.
Dru and I have on our thousands of car rides down, 2 hours. You have a lot to talk about. We have tried to define what the heck we are, you know. And nothing fits. Like friend, no. Best friend, no. Father, no. Brother, no. Mentor, no. Like nothing fits. And it's just, you know, it's just what we are, and it's just what we do, you know.
So how did things shake out in the end? You decided to continue.
Yeah. So I think it might have been you guys. Maybe it was me that came up with it, but I'm like, hey, we just need some type of sheet of paper from a lawyer saying, listen, if I get hurt, Lee is in no way responsible. Yeah.
Yeah, which was even hard on me. Like, as much as I wanted to climb with him, he told me that, like, me and my mom were going to go over to your place.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? He was like, well, you gotta have your mom sign something. And I was just like, we don't need that. Like, my parents aren't gonna sue you. My parents aren't gonna, like, my parents love me, but they're not gonna, you know. And I was like upset that he wouldn't trust me or something weird, you know.
Sure.
I was like, we don't, like, whatever, dude. Like, we're straight.
And I believe that in his parents, but
absolutely.
it's a very different thing.
Yeah.
Being good to me now versus if their son is going to be on a ventilator. Yeah. You know what? Everything's out the window. You worry about your child.
Yeah. If there are $300,000 worth of bills piling up, it becomes a little bit different conversation.
Right.
And that's not saying your parents would be bad people for doing that. It's just saying
no way, they're
100%.
protecting their child.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and it's like, you look at the Tito situation, and you know, it's absolutely devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, I don't know your mom. I can't believe I haven't met your mom.
Yo, my mom is like the nicest person in the
She's
world.
emailed me multiple times.
Wow, she's
amazing.
amazing.
I love it. She's always so thankful when I'm helping promote you or having these conversations or whatever. So
he has good parents. Like, they could have shut all this down in an instant.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Like, Dru's where he's at now because they allowed it.
What's interesting, because in a lot of parts of society, they would have shut it down way before the accident. I mean, this 31-year-old man is trying to take my 12-year-old kid 2 hours away. Hell no.
Yeah.
You know?
I get it.
But very quickly, it was beyond there. You know, I think even the accident happened, like I was coming down here every single weekend. And, you know, if I had a break, like I would get a ride with you on one weekend and I'd stay the whole week, especially in the summer. And then I would get a ride with you home the next weekend, you know, or my buddy Jesse or whatever. And, you know, when I was 15 or 16, I was spending weeks down here by myself.
Yep.
Eating fruit snacks and chocolate pudding. You know,
that's what you lived on back in the day.
And those pink, what were those pink ball things you
that
always
was just for a photo with Ellie.
That was
Come
nasty.
Pink ball things, snowballs.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
bro.
that was
Those
it.
things with the coconut.
I mean, I'm a zingers kind of guy.
Oh yeah, I feel you.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, or all those. I've had to stop with the hostesses, the Twinkies.
You should
and
get sponsored. You should get a hostess sponsorship.
Shout out, little Debbie. Hit me up.
Bye 15A.
Yeah. Johnny may not have to eat a crock after all.
He's been bugging me about that.
Yeah, I bet. So, you know, I asked this and we never really got to it, but when did you know, or when did Dru like
I can answer a little bit of this.
pass by?
I think so. There was a major point where, like, I just wanted to be better and I wanted to do harder and I wanted to be the best. And Lee, at certain points in my climbing, was just like, dude, you're struggling on this route right now, but you're going to warm up on this in a year.
Hey, can we tell that story, the solarium story?
Sure.
Yeah.
I hate that story.
No, this is a good story, though, because this is what I'm talking about. This wasn't about making Dru someone that can climb 14. You know, this was about raising a kid to be a good person, and we're going to do it through the vehicle of climbing. Very different. So, yeah, start that story.
Oh, man.
Come on.
So I was out with the owner of Rocksport, Rob Butch.
Yep.
When we were out at Solarium, and I don't think I had ever done 12B. I was trying magnum opus. And I was 14. And or so, I don't remember. And there's a woman at the crag who we all knew. And I remember trying magnum opus and getting really close and knowing I could do it. And there was one move in the bottom boulder problem, and I slipped or something happened, and I grabbed the draw, and it was one of those things where I like immediately grabbed the draw and pulled back on. Like I just bumped my hand off the draw back onto the hold, and I was back on the wall.
Right.
And maybe, I just was like, I'll just keep going. I'll just keep climbing. And so I just kept climbing, and I did the route, but I didn't do the route,
Right. Right.
Because I had, I hadn't hung on the draw or hung on the rope or anything like that, but I used the quick draw.
Sure.
And I sat there and I debated it, and nobody saw it, and everybody was congratulating me, and so I didn't tell anybody, and I regretted that. And the woman who was there, I don't want to say her name, she called it out
On Ray's site, right?
fortunately publicly, which I wasn't very happy. Like there could have been a maybe better way, but
So then my phone's ringing off the hook.
so I called Lee crying, like absolutely crying. And I don't call Lee. Like I've called Lee 3 or 4 times, and we don't just chat. Like we
Instead,
text.
you just blow up the texts.
But that's how he prefers it. I like talking on the phone, but I'll be like, yo, what's up? And he'll be like, text me. Like, I don't want to talk. That's just him. But I call him like crying. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. This is the story. I feel awful about it. Like I realize I did something wrong. This story's never been public, by the way.
You remember what you told me? You said fix it.
Did I?
Yeah, you said fix this.
I remember writing something for Ray's site for redriverclimbing.com. I wrote something like publicly apologizing for something that I had that I had done and that I had lied about, and never wanted that to be something that like identified me.
Yeah, that's what we were when he called and he said fix it. Well, I said, okay, well then we are going to literally fix it, and you're going to take responsibility.
Yep.
For what you did. You're going to say it's never going to happen again, and it is never going to happen again.
Yep.
And I'm like, I was really, really proud of you that you took that advice, because you could have told me what to do and said, no, I did send it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I knew, and this, like, I don't know, I just wrote it and I put it online, and I don't even think I sent it to you or anything. I asked you afterwards, like, is this okay? And people responded well. They appreciated that I was honest. They knew I was going to do more than that too. They knew that was just like, whatever.
Right. How quickly after that did you go back? Or have you? You have to get that shit off your 8A?
No, I went back immediately.
Yeah.
And I did it
Yep.
proper style, 100%, and that was something, that like, even during that conversation while I was crying, I was like, this is my hardest route or whatever, he was like, this is nothing, that was like a big, he's told me that for a long time, but at that, there were points where it was like, oh, I get it. Like, if I keep doing this, like, I'm going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
And these things that I'm making a big deal about now, they're not going to be nothing in a little bit, which is, it's really, that's something we just talked about, is just having that support, having that person in your life, or your friends being able to tell you like you're capable of that, or you're capable of more.
Yeah, he didn't understand at the time what we were doing. Like, all he ever wanted was, he wanted to climb 12B, and I said, you don't understand what we're doing here, man. I'm like, everything was the next step for me, man. For the whole time, everything growing up was just like, all right, I did like each grade, and then I wanted to do this route or that route. Like, I was so exact with it. Like, nothing mattered. Like, I didn't think about climbing 513. At least I don't remember. I was very focused on like, what's next? Like, what am I going to do next? Now, what am I going to do in a year or 2 years? What am I doing next? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But Lee had this big picture kind of idea, which is like something is crazy, because I'm 24 now, and I'm really realizing how important big picture is, and in this avenue of like, don't sweat the small stuff. Yeah. And when you have a big picture and when you see things further out, the small stuff's easy.
Yeah.
And that was trying to get him to buy into what we were doing, and like,
stay the course kind of thing.
Yeah, like, just relax. Like, and I told you for this from the beginning. I'm like, and I use this 12B was part of the example, was like, man, you're so psyched, and you want to do this so bad that, you're willing to lie for it. I'm like, I guarantee when we're done doing everything we're going to do with you, 12B is not going to be enough to get you even warmed up. Mm-hmm. And he just didn't believe it, But I said, you take the long view and you love it, you keep loving it. Don't just do it to get better. If you actually love it, I'm like, you're going to run this place. And here we are.
Yeah.
And that kind of happened like when I got out of high school. Like, that was, in terms of like, when did things actually change? And I became like, not just somebody being coached by Lee, but like, I was my own climber. I think that was when I got out of high school. I decided to go climbing. I wasn't going to go to school, and I moved to the Red for 6 months.
You were in like super dirtbag mode?
Dirtbag mode, man. I lived at the undertow.
Yeah.
Lived at the undertow. People asked me the other day, like, how is my endurance so good? And I made the joke of, I told you this, right? I made the joke of, like, I literally went through puberty at the mother load. Like, that's why my endurance is so good. And, so, like, I was 18 or 17 at the time, and I just lived at the Undertow. I lived at Miguel's, and that was when like my climbing blew up. And then that went, I got really, my hardest red point at the time was 13A when I got out of high school. And that summer I did 13C with the Madness, and I fell off the anchor, going to the anchors of Omaha. I almost did 13A to 14A within like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then I came home and I was like, I'm a good endurance climber, but how do I become better? And that was the first time me and Lee like trained, and I learned how to actually train then. Everything else was just going rock climbing.
Well, I've seen a lot of people like get to that point where they're passing up their mentor or the person who, helped them get to where they are. And the automatic thought is, that person can't help me anymore. So what made it okay to go back to Lee and say, hey, I'm climbing way harder than you right now, but help me get to the next level?
Because he knows me better than anybody in the world. He knows, a lot of time he knows me better than I know me.
Yeah.
When I can't think clearly, when my emotions are too much, or I don't know whatever, like he knows me just as well as I do. And especially with my climbing, so he knows what I need. He knows where I lack. He knows my strengths. He knows my weaknesses. And then we've worked so long together at like always being better that it's always easy to keep getting better together.
Yeah.
And it's also just like he listens and I listen to him. It's not just like he tells me what to do or I ask him. Like we talk about it. It's not just he knows what I need to do. We have a conversation as two equals now. Whereas like as a kid, he just taught me basics and things I needed to know. And now we come at it as like, what do we need to do to be better? And it's a partnership, it's equals. And then we just work it out, we work out like, this is what I'm thinking. And he tells me what he's thinking. And sometimes those are the same. And sometimes they're totally different. Mm-hmm. And then we figure out, all right, I have this goal. What are we going to do? What are we going to do for my goal? And then what are we going to do for your goal? Like, it's not like my goal and your goal.
Yeah,
like
they're weighted the same. That's the deal.
It's like, absolutely crazy.
He and I have had two goals, and we miss unless we both do it. And his is to clip chains on 15A, which is going to happen. That's going to happen. And then mine has been to do exactly what you did, and I want to clip chains on a 14A. Mm-hmm. And unlike you, I am done once I do it.
I'll believe that when it happens.
Right on.
We'll see. I'm not so sure you're done, but we'll see.
He'll just be like climbing Joss, dude.
Yes, I
That's
love
all
Joss.
that'll be left.
I love Joss.
Jimmy's really excited for Lee to climb
doesn't
Joss.
have a big project. No, I'm sorry. I hate it when Lee doesn't have a big project because we go to the worst cracks because he just wants to catch up to Blake.
Yeah, just wants
It's
to
impossible to catch Blake.
But dude, I mean, we climbed the worst things.
Yeah.
We have awful stories. Do you remember Manzanita? I mean, we joke about it all the time, but we went out to
it's one of our best though.
The Oasis. Now, there's this 12B there called Manzanita. And Lee went up it, and I wasn't climbing that hard or whatever, but there's a massive choss block.
Like refrigerator sized. Huge, like
awful. It's too big to put an X on. And I'm like climbing up and I'm like, what's the hold I'm not supposed to pull on? And he's like, that one.
yeah, just don't go to that one. And he jumps to it. Like, oh my God, this is going to be a long mentorship.
So,
or a really short one, depending.
Yeah, that's awful. But that's the part I like so much, like, because I don't understand how to define this either. But the part that neither of us have hit our goal unless the other one did. Like it was incomplete.
I think that's really, really cool. It's really interesting. And I think it's tough, you as a mentor, not to fall into the trap of giving too much of yourself and not chasing your own goals anymore in order to help Dru succeed, and then you, Dru, not getting caught up in your own gigantic, still growing ego, and
Thanks, buddy.
and forgetting about helping Lee
That's
reach
something
his
we've
goals.
talked about quite a bit, and I'm like doing a lot more trips right now, and I sometimes there have been multiple trips I've gone on in the last year where I feel guilty because I'm being too selfish. I'm going on a trip to Spain and he doesn't have a partner for March and April.
Right.
You know? And that's hard for me. And we talk about it.
He's got Jimmy now.
We just
Jimmy Hochter, aka Little Reggie.
One hang Hochter.
One hang Hochter. And that's something we just talk about. This winter I'm going to Bishop and Waco. And we talked about that. And that was something where I'm just like, I always like apologize and know that I'm always like, I want to always be there for him. But I've also got to like, at this point in my climbing in my career, I have to chase what I'm doing too.
Yeah.
And so we just have to find our balance with that. There's going to be times where I make sacrifices and there's times that he makes sacrifices. There's times that like, we put ourselves to the side for the other person. And it's happened on numerous occasions and it'll just always be like that, And that's something I've never found with anybody. And I can only hope that like I have more relationships. Like I won't ever have relationships like that, but like I base friendships that I like. Lee's giving me such a high standard of like what to expect of people.
No doubt.
But I don't. It's hard work. We have to try, and we have to communicate.
It's
or
a
we
relationship.
get frustrated,
Yeah,
and it
it's a
happens.
relationship.
We've had times where we're just like, whatever, fresh. Like I'm freezing cold, and I don't want to be at the crag.
Yeah.
But that's when I climb best.
And that's like he wants to be, and I'm not like I need to be in training mode. We have this situation in the winter often because I want to be in the gym, bouldering and getting stronger, and he needs to be spending time on his route, learning it and getting better at the climbing because he has a lot less time outside than I do.
Right.
And and a lot of times he'll be like, is this a you're psyched kind of day, or is this a it's what we do kind of day?
Right.
Which he mentioned that earlier. It's what we do. It's kind of a motto that we've always had, and it's kind of like it doesn't even have to be like when it's be above and beyond, but it's just like, if somebody if there's a question, if I ask something of you, it's the response is almost always yes. Like that's just what we do.
Even if you're not psyched on it. It's like,
Yep.
When your spouse asks you to do something, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And Dru and I have that same, I don't know if it's respect or love or what it is, but we have that for each other.
Is what we do. Yeah.
It's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. Was there any, like Dru, when you were passing Lee by like this fucking comet?
And I want to know when that was too. In your head, when was that?
While we were talking about that, I had an idea of that actually, and that was the fall that I got out of high school. I did no redemption.
I knew it. That was mine
in
too.
a couple tries.
That's the point. In a couple of tries, in something way outside his style,
Right.
and it was totally my style.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I had stomped through the Madness Cave all summer.
Yeah, I remember when you did No Redemption, actually.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it on a podcast before, that's something I admired about that season for you, was that you went from being this cave dweller, and you and I had a conversation actually that season because you were a little upset that people were calling, like defining you as a cave dweller.
I just wanted to be well-rounded. Like I wanted to be a good climber everywhere.
Yeah. But then you went and crushed No Redemption, and I was like, well, he's not a cave dweller anymore. Like that's as far as you can get from being a cave dweller.
Yeah, he's just a good climber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the moment for both of you when you felt like
That's rad because we've never talked about that, and that's the
literally
exact
never.
moment because I was hanging on Sugar Magnolia,
He was there watching.
and unlike me, I can get through the crux and still fall on a V2 up top.
Right.
Dru got through the crux, and I knew it was over.
Yeah.
Like, because
First time.
even then, 12C is nothing for him.
Right.
The that's what I always thought the second half of No Redemption was. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting here watching him pass me up right
Blow
now.
right by.
Yeah.
Was there any animosity is not the right word at all, but was there any trepidation, Dru? Were you like, I'm about to pass Lee up and that feels funny?
No.
No?
It was just like what he he always wanted me to be better. He always pushed me to be better.
Yeah.
So there was never any doubt in my mind that like even if I did the routes that he was trying or whatever, like first of all, I didn't think I would, I didn't think I was gonna go do those routes, but then it just kind of kept coming, but he always just worked on, I would tell him what I wanted to do, and he would push me to get there.
Well,
So
I think
never-
that answer tells me a lot about you, Lee, as a mentor figure, because I feel like one of my failings maybe with some of the people that I've mentored and brought up was that when they were in position to pass by me, they were hesitant. And I wasn't. I was like, you should be working on this with me. You should be giving me beta. I wish you would just hang my fucking draws,
Yeah.
That's the position I was in. Like, move past and just keep going. But there was hesitation there. And the fact that Dru's immediate answer was, that's just what he wanted for me. That says so much about the job that you did in
Thanks, Chris.
making sure that Dru was on the right path.
Well, that was the plan from day one. I would have considered it a failure on my part,
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I feel if someone would have been coaching me from age 11, my climbing would look a little different. I wouldn't need 900 tries to send something. But I told Dru that from day one. I'm just like, you just relax. Don't worry about how you're climbing. We're going to get you all the way to the top. And it'll happen if you've got to love it and you just got to listen. And
Yeah, I mean, he also taught me, like, I saw firsthand how hard he had to work and how smart he was, not just working really, really hard and diligently, but, like, being educated about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And so, like, I always saw what it took to keep getting better. And, like, I knew I could do those things. Like, I knew I could learn the tools to be smart, and I knew I could put the work in. And so we both, I think, knew.
and
like,
he would put the work in. Like, his work ethic was too much. Like, he would be at my door all the time, and I'd be like, you're 4 days on.
Yeah.
Go back home.
Yeah.
You cannot be here right now.
My wife said you have to leave.
Yeah.
I was at the gym. I was at Rock Sport all the time. Yeah, it was like, after school daycare.
Yeah. Question for you, Lee. Throughout this whole journey, there have been several other people who took a really deep interest in helping Dru out.
Yes.
I've done a tiny bit. Connie has helped out. There have been people who have stepped in there.
Wayne Simon, Tyler Wilcutt.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Jeff Neal, Kip Trummel, my mom and dad.
Yeah. Tons of people.
And it's
Sean Peterson.
it's legion. Like, this was a village. Dru and I are associated together because our faces are always together, but
Right.
I don't get 100% credit for Dru. Like, that would be disingenuous. It literally, the community raised him and the community made him. And I think that's why he gives so much back to it.
Yeah, and you can see that here. You just answered my question without me even really asking it. But what you just said, that the community raised him here, you see that in the pride that this community has. When you send something, it's everybody fucking celebrating.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing to me about watching you progress the way you have, is seeing the genuine love and support that you get from everybody else around here. That's so fucking cool to me.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it comes because you're that genuine type of person. And I don't think it's a small part of yours. I think that you've done a lot to Lee to instill that. Because it could have gone another way.
It could have. And that's where I want to take you back to that time where I saw this 11-year-old in the gym that was struggling. You know, as I saw the potential that was there as the person. Like, it was always about creating the person, and the vehicle we were going to use to do it was climbing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so surreal. And I thank people who are living down here like Dario, and I grew up with Mark Ventura. And I remember Dario telling me when things started kind of progressing, he was like, if you get a big head, if you're doing the wrong things,
yeah,
you're going to know.
He was going to let you know.
He was going to let me know.
Yeah. I think a lot of people
would. Big brother. And and there were people who kept me in check. There were people who corrected things, told me when I was extra, too much. It told me how to, be excited, but also be real and be calm and chill. And my community here is unreal. I have this story, I wrote about it on my Instagram, that there's a group of young women, Anna Hayes and Sarah Brangos. And, I just wore baggy basketball shorts.
Yeah.
I had high top basketball shoes on. Mm-hmm. I never showed my kneecaps was always the joke because my shorts were too long. And they all pitched in and bought me Mojo shorts. And I looked like a climber for once. Yeah. I looked like part of the community. Mm-hmm. And they just wanted me to feel like a part of things. And that's they rallied. It wasn't much for them to spend a little bit of money on me, but they didn't it was for no reason. It wasn't a birthday or Christmas. They just wanted to do something for me. Yep. And I will always remember those things. And I think that I try to really is something Lee's taught me and my parents have taught me is trying to be grateful for the things that are around me and remembering those things and talking about them and you, Chris, taking me to see Nos. You know how many times I've told that story? Yeah. And it's only out of this love, this very genuine love that I have for these people around me who have given me so much. And it's crazy to me because, each accomplishment I have keeps, the love for it just keeps growing and people are so proud. That hit a breaking point just at Rocktoberfest. I think we talked about this. Yeah. I did my first poster signing. Yeah. And Petzel.
I tried to make as big a deal out of it as possible.
Thank you.
On the mic.
Petzel, decided it was that I was, that it was time, I guess. I don't know how to explain that. That it was that I was valuable enough, that I was at that level. Yeah. And they made posters of a route I did last year or whatever. And I remember a couple people coming up and that I've known since I was 11 or 12. And I was just, I was fighting back tears, you know?
Totally.
Because, it's just these people have seen me for so long and I kept being wow, this is crazy. And Adam Peters was it's not crazy, you deserve this. And I was well, surreal is a better word. Because I never thought this would I never thought this would happen, and those people would never thought that this would happen. Yeah. And now I'm and able to give love back. It's insane.
It's cool.
It's literally insane.
And it's cool that you do. And like I said, I don't think it's definitely not just you didn't play a small part in that. Even though you very humbly say it was a village, you've put a lot of time into being a leader in that village. So it's definitely kudos to you. And as far as I'm concerned, you get half of Dru's 8A points. So
So does that mean I can quit projecting?
Well, it doesn't help you with redriverclimbing.com points, so you still got a lot of chaws to climb. And
see you later, Blake.
Last couple things I want to talk about before we wrap this thing up, and so I can stop being teary-eyed here. It looks like, watching you two at the crag, it looks like not that roles have reversed, but it's this interesting situation where Dru can just hike your project now.
Hike.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you come down and you're immediately over to Dru. What do I need to do? What was wrong there?
Yeah, what did you see in
He
that
doesn't even
section?
come to me. I watch and I walk up. You know, I mean, we knew immediately. You moved your right foot up today to grab the crimp in the black rock.
Yep.
And you know, I immediately we talked about a foot that he should try, and we I saw him do it. He took, and we looked at each other, and we already
Yep, it worked. Yep, that was what the look said.
Great, cool.
Yeah.
We're on the same. We're always just talking about it.
So
we always feel comfortable talking about it too. Like a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking. Like I want to talk through what I just did. You know, I got off my route today, and I was like, "This is the little things that I did." You know, it lets me remember it and visualize it, and it helps him know, you know, how to be better, and this vice versa too.
And this is why I just wouldn't tell you exactly what to do. I needed you to learn how to think so that when you passed me up, you were going to help me out on what I didn't understand, what I can't understand because I haven't been there.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think at this point in my climbing, I've been able to travel a lot more in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's something that we just talked about the other day. It's been absolutely massive in evolving my skill set as a climber and my knowledge as a climber, and I feel like a really good rock climber at this point in my climbing, a lot of from traveling and seeing other places and other climbers and everything, and I think that's allowed me to really be there for Lee in his efforts at harder and harder routes.
Yeah. And you know, I think maybe that's why you two have such a hard time defining what this relationship is, because even though it's been this 13 years or whatever, 12 years running, it's changed pretty quickly and pretty fast from the initial almost parental
That's so interesting.
sort of thing to it's run through mentor, through friend, through peer, to equals.
I think it's all of them.
You
He
know?
wears Lee wears all the hats
Yeah.
for my life.
Yeah.
He was a father figure when there were things that I didn't want to talk about with my dad.
Sure.
I love my dad to the end of the world, but there's a lot of things in this life that you don't want to talk
any
to your
other
dad,
human,
that your pastor dad about.
Yeah.
And
Mikey would approve of all my advice, by the way, just to let you know.
What's that?
Mikey would approve of all my advice.
Yes. Yeah, man. I mean, it was always he's always been there for all parts of it.
Yeah.
Whether it was I need a coach right now, and he knows what hat to have.
Yep.
I just need a friend, or I need you to tell me what to do. I need you to tell me I need you to tell me this truth. I need you to not beat around the bush, and I don't need you to be my buddy right now. I need you to set me straight. He knows.
Is that the one that happens most often right now? Because that's how it seems.
Right now, we're just a full-blown support system for each other.
Yeah.
I think that's the most massive thing in our relationship is that there's almost a never we make fun of each other, but when it's serious, it's 100% support.
Yep.
I believe in him and he believes in me, and we're not making we make fun of each other for certain things, but when it's serious, we're so serious because we both want to do our shit.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've expressed to him that I really need to be better, is that I need positivity, and I need just be able to talk things through and figure out the next steps, especially in hard projects and and life for all of that, and yeah.
Well, you know what? You just popped something else into my head. Lee and I were talking earlier at the Crag about most of the 24-year-olds who are in your position, Dru, who are climbing really hard mid-range moderates.
14C.
A lot of crap for that.
14C.
I have people haven't.
There aren't many 14C climbers out there your age who didn't come up as hardcore comp kids.
Yep.
And Lee and I were talking about that. Like, is Dru an anomaly? Who else is out there who wasn't a competitive comp kid climbing at this level? And if that's the case, why? And I think we just sort of answered it. I think that there is a lack of that sort of mentorship, partnership out there, for sure.
Without a doubt.
Especially for an 11 or 12-year-old kid who's not in a comp, who doesn't have a team, who doesn't have a coach behind them and all of that support. And Lee played team and coach and friend and all those roles.
Universe lined up for us to for that interaction to happen, because I'm at the point now where there's people who ask me for coaching or and
now you're returning it,
and I in tiny ways, because I can't commit. I'm selfish enough right now that I can't commit
and you should
what Lee committed to me.
Yeah,
and I don't know if I'll ever be able to.
Sure.
Obviously, I want to be able to return that to somebody like Lee did to me, but the amount of energy and investment that he put into me is absolutely unprecedented now that I see it being potentially asked of me, or potentially I want to do that for somebody else. And I'm starting to recognize there's this kid and I would invest in him, or there's this person and maybe I want it. And that's super interesting to me, because it's it makes me feel like I understand a little bit more of how intimidating and how scary it must have been for Lee.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think just like you couldn't see how someday soon you're going to be warming up on 12B, it's the same situation. You don't know where your priorities are going to lie. You don't know what you're going to be when you're 34 years old, 35 years old, and maybe at that point you're going to say, I really do have the time and I don't feel selfish.
Yep.
And I want to invest this time into this person or these people or whatever. And I think that's the direction it seems to be headed to me. And for now, you're signing posters for stoked kids, and stoked 40-year-olds.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that feels like for me? The 11-year-old kid in my basement is on a fucking poster.
I know. Do you have a poster in your house?
Oh, hell yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he signed it. Would you sign it?
It's what we do.
That's right. And
Love.
It's perfect.
It's what we do. Love.
That's right.
Well, we've got one rolled up in the camper too that Annalisa got, so we can take home.
Nice.
So,
but here lately, if I write anything about him, I tag it with "Baby bird done flown the nest."
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's not because, I feel like, he's just miles above me in climbing. Mm-hmm. No, it's because, he's finished from my standpoint on needing to give him guidance to becoming an adult, guidance into being a great person, guidance into hitting his potential. He's done it. He's there. He's just gonna run with this from now on. This is Dru. There's no worry about him falling off anymore.
I bet there's more you're gonna give him though.
Oh yeah,
because that's what you do.
We got more to give. It's what we do.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate that a fucking ton.
Thank you, Lee, for everything. I thank you all the time, but
now it's the cheesiest podcast ever.
I
without
love you,
a doubt, man. Yeah, I'm just thank you.
Yeah, it's time for you two to go back to Wyoming. No one wants to climb in Wyoming that much. I'm joking, Steve Bechtel. I'm joking.
Had to get that out there.
Little shout out.
All right.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Love you.
Yep. Love you too, brother.
Thanks for this, Chris.
You know, with more and more kids finding climbing, mentorship is harder to come by. And maybe it's an evolving, changing definition, and it's not exactly the same as what it used to be. But what must remain are the ideas of support and direction. And I mean, these are essential to mentorship. And it's important to remember that you're humans. You know, we're all going to screw up, get on each other's nerves, do dumb things, etc., etc. But the level of trust and support that a mentor and, frankly, the mentee ultimately provides to each other can't be overstated. And to all of you out there who are mentoring someone, thank you from me. And to those being mentored, make sure you thank that person. And while I'm at it, thanks to Dru and Lee for sitting down and opening up for this conversation. You guys know I really, really appreciate that. And speaking of mentorship, like I mentioned before, go check out the GoFundMe from Climb Malawi. They're doing important things. Every little bit helps. And just sharing their campaign goes a long way. So even if you can't help, share it with your social media. If you're gearing up for summer training, we have coaching slots available with all of our coaches. Hit us up, powercompanyclimbing.com/custom. And if you have questions, you can hit me on the Instagrams or the Facebooks at Power Company Climbing. You can also post your question in 280 characters or less on the Twitter machine, and you might get an answer. But it won't be from us, because we don't tweet. We scream like eagles.
This time, 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 power, this time to build power, this time to build power, this time to build power. 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 This time to
Well,
You said you were going to take sound clips of me. You said in the last one we did you were going to take clips of me eating my food and put it out. So now I'm just going to make weird noises for, what's those?
That's what you did the whole last 5 episodes was make weird noises.
Josh and Charlie? Yeah. Josh and Charlie. Shout outs. Fuck off.
I'm going to point out that noise to everybody at some point.
God, it's so weird.
It's so funny.
It's so weird.
I love it.
Awful.
Did you send him a lead?
I'm going to, like, at this point in this podcast, everyone out there who's listening is going to hear it like 5 times in a row. I'm just going to play it over and over and over.
You know, I also want to... It's fully mid-sentence. How?
I don't even know what you did. I don't know what you did.
It's like when you're walking and you're on nothing.
And you just trip.
And you just eat it. But I did that with my mouth.
Did you ever hear about that kid that was walking into the load in the winter?
Oh.
And he slipped off the bridge and landed in the river?
It was in the fall, I heard, actually. Yeah, but he slipped and fell forward.
Forward.
So forward but sideways, which meant his knee cracked into the bridge.
And then he flipped over.
Which then sent him backwards into the water. Yeah. I mean, falling into the water is way better than falling into your own shit. Which I've never done before.
We're already getting into it here, huh?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I haven't fallen into my own shit, have I?
No, I have.
Oh, okay. Well, nice.